All right. So we're going to be, I think this is the second time I've done a tier list. This is actually a request by Mike Hollow, aka the chocolate biscuit. He likes it when I call him that. It's nothing bad, I promise. Anyway, so we're going to jump straight into this, but we're going to do this tier list a little different, and I'll explain exactly what we're doing. So this is, I actually had to drum this up because there wasn't any template, at least one that I could find. And the request was, or idea was doing a tier list from obviously best to worst for the Mortal Kombat games that are going to be in the collection that's going to be coming out. Now, naturally, we'll revisit this when they announce other games to be added, but essentially we're just going to go through the basic levels, but also I'm going to load up every game and showcase it as to the reason why. Because I do have the previous video on here, which just gives quick, quick graphics of what we're seeing in regards to the actual games themselves. But I'd like to show like how it actually really looks, like character select screen, a little bit of movement. So it's a little bit more in depth. So this might be a long video, but that's, you know, if you're cool with that, then we're good to go, right? So anyway, so we're going from S tier all the way down to D, right? And naturally, every single arcade game, right, that was made, right? So we got Mortal Kombat 1, Mortal Kombat 2, Mortal Kombat 3. Of course, Ultimate as well is going up there too. And we also have MK, where is MK4? We got MK4 there, right? So that's our arcade collection. They are always going to be S tier. The only other two games that I would put up in S tier that are not here yet would be Mortal Kombat Trilogy, CD-based version, and Mortal Kombat Gold. Right, that's probably the other two that would probably end up being on the S tier because they are literal arcade perfection. And I recommend to people that if you are going to play these games outside of obviously nostalgia or you played other home versions before, to start off on these games, particularly too if they add in something like training mode, right? These are going to be the games that are going to be run, you know, if anyone decides to do any tournaments. Obviously, I will be running, and probably many other creators will be doing the same when it comes to the other games available for tournaments. But this is the pinnacle. This is the absolute pinnacle. Best sound, best music, best character rosters per game. It is incredible. Not to mention the fact that also with something like both Mortal Kombat 3 and Ultimate MK3, they've already said that you'll have all the unlockable characters made available. So you won't even have to worry about putting in special codes or anything like that. And it is the best. Now, as far as like breaking down like how I would go from like best to worst in terms of like my favorite versions of the arcade, it definitely starts off at MK2. I would probably jump over to Ultimate MK3. Maybe a close tied would be with MK1, simply depending on mood, right? But obviously, if you're depending on which part of the 2D era you fall into. So, for example, if you want really fast, aggressive gameplay, MK3, Ultimate, and then MK4 is going to be your absolute cup of tea. Now, that's not to say MK1 and MK2 can't be aggressive. It's just simply by adding in the run button in MK3 and up, it really changes the dynamic of the game. That's when we got the introduction of the glitch jabs, and therefore, you know, it's not for everyone, right? Some of us do prefer playing the older MK1, MK2 because we don't have that still highly aggressive game, but it's a little bit calmer in that respect. As far as like content goes, these are just the straight arcade ROMs, and I'll show you what these all look like at the end of this video once we're done with the tier list. But yeah, I do not think they'll add anything else outside of hopefully training modes for these. These are just straight up, just arcade, you know, just the arcade ROMs. Now, the arcade version of MK4, which I will show you, is actually kind of glitchy on the emulator. In the actual video that I showcased to you guys, The MK4 section is actually the graphics from MK Gold, meaning that the emulator has actually smoothed out all the aliasing and actually doesn't have any glitches when it comes to any of the special effects and stuff like that, because that's exactly what we're going to end up with when they put MK4 Arcade in here. Because the MK4 Arcade version in general doesn't have these glitches, neither does obviously the PS1 version or anything like that. So as far as like a list inside the S tier, definitely MK2, MK1 and Ultimate generally tie depending on mood. And then also MK3 maybe next, then maybe MK4. MK4 is a funny one for me. I'm not, like, I like it as an MK game, but I didn't play it as much as the other ones, and I think it was just because, you know, they changed some of the characters. Reptile looked like an absolute gimp compared to what we had in Trilogy Ultimate when he appeared. You know, he was just an absolute machine in that, and then they turned him into Lizard Bro. Like, you know, I don't know, I didn't really like it overly much. But they introduced the weapon combat, but the weapon combat was so finicky because as soon as you got hit, when you weren't blocking, you instantly dropped your weapon. They introduced the 3D movement, which came over from War Gods, which is essentially the test bed for what we got in MK4. War Gods would actually be a really cool addition, just as an aside, something to unlock in the game. So let's move on to A tier. Now, obviously, there's going to be personal bias in here. You're going to have some people that prefer one things over the other. But if we're going by personal bias and what I consider to be the closest to the arcade in authenticity, but also just options as well, because you got to remember too that some of these games that were released on the home systems were dealt really cool menu systems, right? So if we're going to, so we'll start off with MK1, right? So let's get the MK1 box art up there, which obviously will be for the Mega Drive as well as Genesis. I'm just putting Genesis in there. Absolutely the best, what I would consider one of the best home versions available. Now, naturally, there was a PC version that was made available, which was technically the best in terms of closest to the arcade. But if we're forgetting that, because again, PC gaming wasn't as big back then, and it was a lot more difficult. From memory, you couldn't even use controllers. You had to use keyboard to play. This is the best, what I consider the best home version outside of, and again, we're not including the Sega CD version here, which was very, very close to the arcade, but the MK1 Genesis / Mega Drive version is the best. You got the the Dullard code, down, up, left, A, right, down, to access an extras menu where you can go in and you can select everything from the starting stage, turning blood on or off in case you forget to put the ABAC ABB code when the game loads up. And it's just phenomenal. You can even, by setting up certain parameters, you can actually activate a special glitch where you can actually fight Reptile in like the endurance mode. So you actually have like 2 reptiles you can fight, and the second character actually glitches out, and it's really funny. But ultimately, it is a great version. However, the music is very different compared to the arcade, right? It was a completely rearranged music track, and therefore it adds its own flavor. Anyone that played the Mega Drive Genesis version of MK1, you will hear, like, as soon as you start thinking about that game, you'll hear that, like, right? Amazing. Absolutely. Look, fucking goosebumps. Here we go. Right? Absolutely amazing, right? Now, if we go to the next version of Mortal Kombat 1, right? So I also played a lot of the Game Gear. The Master System version, which is the Game Gear, right? It's this one here. Now, I'd probably put it on the B tier for the simple fact, right, that it's missing a character, right? It doesn't have all 7 characters in the game. Okay? And that is a real shame. It is a real shame that they didn't have that. So we've obviously got, and again, I'll show you all of these rosters, how they look at the end of the video. So if you want to stick around after that, you're more than welcome to, naturally. So we missed out. So they had Liu Kang, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Raiden, Johnny Cage, Sub-Zero, Scorpion, Raiden, Johnny Cage, Liu Kang, and Sonya. There was no Kano in that particular version, right? Which sucked, right? But it, memory restrictions. There's also only 2 stages. We got Goro's Lair in the pit. There is no stage fatality either. You can't do the stage fatality in the pit. You also start off on completely different, to the wall side of the screen. And the control's a bit finicky too, because these games were made with 2 buttons in mind. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out when they actually bring them out. Ultimately, the punch button would serve as the uppercut. And also, if you held the punch button and held back, you'd then go into a block pose. And then the kick button would serve as a multi-function button from everything the roundhouse to the sweep. You actually had to input the presses for the harpoon or the spear for Scorpion slow. Same with Sub-Zero's freeze, slow. Like, you can't do it really quick like we're used to in the 16-bit era and beyond. You had to really slow down your movements too. But it's also got a really cool soundtrack. Very small soundtrack, because we're talking about an 8-bit system here. But for nostalgia's sake, it does creep up into the B tier for me. Even though it's missing the character, a bunch of stages and stuff. I think it's probably the strongest 8-bit version. Like, it's definitely the best version out there between the Master System, the Game Boy, and of course the Game Gear. And that's the one that we're getting in the collection, which is the Game Gear version. Now, go away, Ad. So we're gonna do the Super Nintendo, right? It is either going on C or D. C or D here, and I'm kind of smelling. I'm kind of smelling maybe C. Maybe C. Right? Because even though it was censored, it's still pretty good. Like, the sound is solid. You got all the characters naturally outside of the censorship. It was actually a pretty decent version of it. It's just that when it came out, the censorship really separated itself out, and people that were fans of Mortal Kombat naturally gravitated towards the Mega Drive Genesis to get their actual proper feel of MK. So while the graphics and the sound might have been better on the Super Nintendo version, it's the Mega Drive Genesis version that really trumps it, because while it's inferior in that regard, it felt like it had really tight gameplay, and also it had the cool soundtrack, but it also had the blood, and it didn't skimp on that, and that's a big deal. Now, to be fair, and we will load it up, the Game Boy version does handle like ass, right? When I was capturing the footage before for the other video, yeah, it's kind of ass. I mean, you don't even have a proper jump kick. Literally, when you somersault in to do the jump kick, you don't have the kick coming down the angle. It's literally the hop kick, right? There's less. I think you're missing a character as well. I'd have to double. Like, what we're gonna see at the end, right? But I didn't play much of it because mostly I was a Sega fanboy growing up. But obviously, with emulation, I've been able to dabble a little bit. And of course, it's all in black and white, right? So, and I'm pretty sure there's no fatalities in it. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. We need that one up there. My bad. Right? My bad. Yeah, so pretty sure that, yeah, you couldn't do any fatalities in that one either, which was, it's a bit of a shame, right? But yeah, we'll double check. We'll double check at the end. So, that's as far as like, I'm concerned, as far as like from top to bottom for MK1, and I put them in that line right there for easy to see. That's where I'm at with that. Now, of course, Mortal Kombat 2. Right, and because, again, obviously with Mortal Kombat, we're leading from the top down. It's always the arcade. It's always the arcade that's going to be in the S tier. Now, as far as like MK2, this is where it gets really interesting for me. Really interesting for me. Because I would actually put... So to me... See, to me, the Genesis version is an A-tier release, right? it's definitely an A tier release, right? And we're gonna add a separate row. Actually, no, we're not gonna. Hang on. We're gonna get rid of that one. Hang on, my bad. This is kind of all new to me because I wanted to see if I could add in, but it's gonna push it across. That's fine. Doesn't matter, right? So MK2 on the Genesis was great. We had a brand new cheat menu, left down left, right down right, left left right right. We had a whole host of shit from things like one button fatalities, all that sort of stuff. There was also a brand new mode in it called the soak test, which allowed you to actually sit back and watch the computer fight. Now, you couldn't choose the characters, but this is actually where I fell in love with CPU versus CPU battles, which is why I'm such a huge fan of Mugen games, and I'm a massive fan of any fighting game out there that allows you to choose your characters, put it on the highest difficulty, sit back, and have your own fight night, kind of like watching your own UFC or boxing match. It's amazing stuff. Now, obviously, and this is why, like, it's interesting. I'm going to put the Super Nintendo version up there because realistically, these two are like, they're split at birth because they both do really excellent stuff, right? The gameplay in the Mega Drive Genesis version of MK2 is arcade perfect. The gameplay in the SNES version kind of feels like I'm punching putty, right? It doesn't feel crisp. It doesn't feel accurate. It doesn't feel precise. It feels a little floaty. It feels like I'm hitting bags of potatoes. It's nowhere near as tight and as on point as the arcade version of MK2, and of course that was naturally transposed over into the Genesis version. However, the graphics and the sound, like the actual sound chip in the SNES, was superior in the Super Nintendo version over the Sega Mega Drive Genesis version. And I still remember arguing with one of my friends in the computer room back in the 90s about which version was better. He had the SNES version and I had the Genesis version, right? And I fucking loved my Genesis version, man. I fucking played that shit every fucking day, right? It is absolutely phenomenal. Phenomenal, really. Okay? And I'm pretty sure the soundtrack was slightly different too. I'm pretty sure it was different as well, right? And also one of the things, just to point out, like, I'd have to, again, we'll check at the end, that with the SNES versions of MK1 and 2, like, I think they had, like, Kintaro Goro come out and smack the sign out of the way, which was kind of like a nice little touch. But ultimately, both of those, I believe, are A-tier arcade ports, simply because of what both of them offered in strengths, and the weaknesses was picked up by the other. And they're great. Like, they're really, really cool. It's going to be a lot of fun to run comps and stuff on these, you know, so like graphically inferior versions. If anyone's played on Fightcade, then you know what I'm talking about. Like, it's cool to play these games, but they're obviously not arcade accurate in terms of like every single piece, right? At all. There's also no reduction in characters. All the characters are in there. But I believe from memory, the Super Nintendo had far more voices in there. When you choose a character on the Mega Drive version, there is no audio calling out the name, that sort of thing, right? Now, I will add up there too, because listen, I really am a fanboy of the Sega, but also the ports, because I paid very close attention to the ports that came out back then, right? The 32X version took the Mega Drive version and just amped it up. It basically added stuff that essentially, like, you know, like a bit better graphics. Obviously, the audio names, that sort of thing, was added in to the 32X version, and it was kind of like the pinnacle edition. I still remember putting that big 32X, you know, hardware adapter on top of my Mark II Mega Drive. And then putting in the the cartridge, and just, you know, having a good old time. But it is very cool, you know. So if you love the Mega Drive version, this is like the what I would consider the best or definitive version outside of people modding these ROMs, which they have done, by the way, of the Mega Drive version too. And it really depends which camp you're in. If you're a Sega fanboy or a Nintendo fanboy, you're obviously going to lean in different directions, and that's perfectly fine. And then, of course, lastly, with Mortal Kombat 2 with the Game Boy, I didn't have too much to do with it, but ultimately, yeah, it's kind of, again, the gameplay is pretty janky. Like, it's going to be fun as fuck to play tournaments if we can with these games, just so, like, because we're all going to be bad. Like, we're all going to be shit, right? So it's going to be really funny. But I guess they kind of did the best with what they could. But, like, you know, it was in comparison to having the options, because the interesting part here is that in this collection, they're not adding in the Master System and Game Gear versions of Mortal Kombat 2. They're not doing that. I'm not sure why they're not doing that. I guess it doesn't really matter. Maybe they just didn't sell as well because, to be honest, this was the era of the 16-bit console. The 8-bit console was being phased out, and just like what we got with the handhelds, which we'll talk about a bit when it comes to things like Deadly Alliance and Tournament Edition, that they gave them the scraps so that way, because the handhelds was still relevant, but they couldn't match the power of the newer systems, they would still get essentially this massively downgraded version of it. So anyway, so I think that's covering everything with MK2. Let's move on to MK3. Right? Obviously arcades up there. Now my personal version, right, of MK3, right, was the Super Nintendo. But I'm going to put it on the B tier. Right, I'm going to put it on the B tier because this is when I started to notice, and it is the best version. It is the superior version of both the Mega Drive and the Super Nintendo version. However, right, this is when I started to notice that the gameplay was feeling a little struggling. You know, like the movement in the game, it felt like, you know, because they were trying to match the graphics as best they could from the arcade, because obviously between MK2 and MK3, there is quite not a massive fidelity difference, but you can definitely see it. Obviously, the adding in the run button, the speed, it just sort of felt like, you know, like, yeah, I'm starting to feel like the system is being really pushed. And actually, I remember being there on launch day. I went into the city. I was waiting out the front of the shop, waiting for the shop to open, and it felt like forever. And I don't even think the boxes were in yet. We had to wait for the delivery to come in with the MK3 Super Nintendo box. And the reason why I got the Super Nintendo version over, obviously, the Mega Drive version was simply because of the better sound and the better graphics. But despite that, it was still like, you know, you were starting to feel like, yep, okay, we're starting to really hit the wall in what these 16-bit systems can handle. And it was starting to take my enjoyment out. Now, obviously, we're getting the arcade version of MK3, which is fucking phenomenal. Like, we haven't had that in so long. I think it was put on one of the Midway arcade collections back on the PS2 and Xbox. We obviously had the PS1 version, which was fantastic because it came with Red Book audio. We're not having that in here because we've got the arcade version, right? But at that point, I don't think it was that long after, like the PS1, you know, and MK3 was a launch title. At least it was here in Australia. Yeah, I really sort of, I was, when I got hold of that, I never touched the Super Nintendo version ever again, right? And the Genesis one isn't too bad, but again, these systems are hitting the wall, so the gameplay and the feel of it is starting to get, like, even more degraded because of it. So naturally, because the SNES does better graphics in general in terms of like what it can pump out with its what was the name of the chip? Was it the Z chip or something like that? And the sound, the Genesis version, which actually didn't have that level of capacity, no, it was starting to like really falter, right? So there's only for MK3, there's only 3 versions going to be available in this collection. Now moving on to Ultimate, because there's only going to be 2. Naturally, Ultimate is up here in the arcade slot, of course, which is the pinnacle version of it. And the only other version that we're getting is the SNES version. Now, what's really fascinating, now I didn't buy these. So I get comments on my videos going, when I say that, yeah, Trilogy had all the characters, right? And people go, yeah, but the SNES version or the Mega Drive version and Ultimate, they had like, you know, they had like Rain and Noob and stuff, I believe it is. But I never bought those versions, right? So I didn't know. By that stage, I was already well on my way into the 32-bit era of gaming. And when I found out that the Saturn had poached Ultimate MK3 for temporary licensing rights, I was dismayed, but I never caved. I never went out and bought the Ultimate version of Mortal Kombat 3 on the 16-bit. It wasn't long after that that I found out the Trilogy was on the way for the N64, and then of course the PlayStation 1 as well. I'm probably gonna put this. Look, I know some people obviously want it up into B tier, probably higher for them as well. But when I have played this, right, it really struggle. Like, you know, you can feel it struggling. And keep in mind, I want everyone to remember this, please. Any negativity that I have that I'm stating, I'm only doing that just to try and separate between why I'm preferring certain ones over the others. I love all this shit. I love it. It's Mortal Kombat, right? And it's so cool to be able to go back and try out these different versions when I never was able to when I was younger, some of them, and experience them. And that's what makes them awesome. If you yourselves, you might put the Game Boy versions all the way up into S tier, and that's perfectly acceptable. But this is essentially my experience with the MK franchise going through the years, and of course with this particular collection. Now, this is the interesting part because I never ever owned these games. I never owned these games, but when I was trying out the actual like to get the gameplay footage. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, you know, it's kind of interesting actually, because these three games, so what we've got here is three games that were made for the Game Boy Advance, right? The first one is Mortal Kombat Advance, okay? Then we have Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance, and then we have Mortal Kombat Tournament Edition. So again, I don't know a whole bunch about these. I think it's fair to assume that these handheld versions are, like, they're cool. You know what I mean? Like, they're cool to play and stuff like that. But ultimately, you know, like, I don't know. I would either be sticking them in C or D tier. But I think what I'm actually looking forward to is that at the end of this, I'm going to load up every single one of these games. I'm going to drag the window over. You can see the character select screen. I'll have the music on, like the audio on, so you can hear it as well. Maybe play like a round so you can hear what it sounds like and the visuals and stuff. So by the time we get down to the Game Boy ones, it'd be like, yeah, I might actually rotate these ones around. But ultimately, I think maybe that one sits up in C. Deadly Alliance, when I was capturing it, was just, yeah, it was kind of awful, actually, to be honest. Like, even though you had the 3D movement, it still kind of felt kind of funny. And I'd probably put Tournament Edition, I don't know, it might rotate from D to C. It depends what we got. It depends what we got, right? So let's, without further ado, let's start loading up and showcasing these games, right? Because this is the arcade version of Mortal Kombat. Like, the arcade version. So let's get the sound happening, right? Let's get the coins in. There we go. And this will basically be the experience that you'll be getting, right? This will be the experience that you're getting, right?
Scorpion.
All right, here we go.
Fight. Get over here! Scorpion win.
So that's like very cool, right? Actually, I might do a fatality. Right? MK1. Let's showcase the real MK1, right?
Finish him. Scorpion.
Perfect.
Win. Flawless victory. Fatality.
Perfect, right? Alright, so let's load up Mortal Kombat 2. This is the arcade version. It's 3.1. Right. There we go. Hang on, I'll just drag that over a little bit more. Nice, excellent. Okay.
Scorpion.
This is good, man. It's so fast, so snappy. Right. Whoa! Fucked it up. I'll see if I can do the. I'll see if I can do the Deadpool.
Finish him.
There we go. Wait for it.
Scorpion wins.
Oh, I didn't do it. I was waiting for the. Oh. Maybe they didn't have that in 3.1. All right, so let's load up MK3. Right, so this is the arcade version. Right. Let's check this out. Then we got 3 towers, which was a brand new thing for the MK series, the actual choice between difficulty. Although by the 3rd fight, the arcade kicks into high gear anyway, so it makes no fucking difference which tower you choose. That's just the yeah, that's just the fact, man. See if I can flip my big one.
Well done.
Oh, I missed it.
Come on, wins.
Nice, beautiful, crisp sound. Love it.
Fight. Superb. Superb. Finish him.
This fucking fatality, man. I'll tell you what. Terrible.
Fatality.
All right, now, so I'm gonna load up MK4. It's glitchy on the arcade, right? It's glitchy on the arcade, but you'll see what the menu looks like, right? But in game, it's gonna be like of the quality of what we got in the Dreamcast version of Gold. It's gonna smooth out all the aliasing, and just like the PlayStation 1 and also the PC version, it's going to have the beautiful graphics. Like, it's going to be all smoothed out and great. For whatever weird reason, right, the arcade version is just glitchy. I don't know if any of the future main versions have fixed it. But the reason why I'm showing you this is because it has this menu. So just like the home versions where you have the 2 menus here, right? So all the characters as well, which is nice. Press start, you can rotate the tower. So you can choose who you want to fight. So you'll notice instantly, like, the graphics look really terrible. You can see the glitching of the actual special, like the actual special moves and stuff. Right? Which is just woeful. Just woeful. Now I will load up the Dreamcast version at some point as well. And then obviously last for the arcade ones, like, yeah, I'll load up the Dreamcast one so you guys can actually see that as well. We're actually going to have a look at, this is Ultimate MK3 arcade version. Obviously this will be the same setup as well as what we get in the collection, right? So we can actually set up 8-player tournaments. Imagine that. We'll actually be able to do that shit fucking online, right? It's going to be amazing, bro. Absolutely amazing, right? It's going to have all the characters unlocked like that as well, so that's going to be pretty easy. I wonder if it's going to have the secret Ed Boon menus. I wonder if they're going to have that in these. That'd be fucking wild, right? Also, the other thing too that they introduced was the ability to start a combo with a jumping in punch or an actual hop kick as well, right? So you can actually Oh, hang on, see if I can do it. No, it's not gonna let me. There we go. So you can do that. You can start your combos like that. In MK3, you can't do that.
Finisher.
So yeah, and that's all the arcade ports. Like I said, I will show the Dreamcast version of MK Gold, so that way you get to see how it's gonna really look, right? And technically speaking, I could load up the MK1, the PS1 version of that, and it'd be perfectly acceptable as well. So let's have a look at the. Now we're gonna look at the MK1 versions, so we can do a nice big side by side, and you can check those out as well. All right, so we're gonna load up. Actually, we're gonna load. So, yeah, we're gonna load up Mortal Kombat 1. Just trying to find it. There we go. All right, it's gonna be a small window, but oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, right there, man, right there.
Get over here!
That's the blood code, ABAC, ABB, right? Right. There's the cheat option. So this is the options you can have in, right? All these different flags represent different things that you can turn on or off. Hopefully when they put this into the actual collection, it'll actually give you some sort of menu to tell you, yes, this is what flag 1 does, this is what flag 2 does, so on, so on, so on, so on, so on, right? So that's pretty cool, right? Amazing, man. Oh, it's so good. All right, let's go.
Get over here! Get over here!
Just love this music, love the sound. Really cool.
Fight.
Get over here! Get over here!
Finish him.
By the way, if you ever want to do Scorpion's fatality, so if you're on the pit and you get a double flawless and you see the shadow over the moon to fight Reptile, you don't have to hold block. You can literally just what do you call it? I'll load up the Game Gear version while I'm here as well. Where is the Game Gear? Here we go. Where is Mortal Kombat 1? Where are you, baby? There we go. Is it gonna work? It's gonna it's making me lie. I'll fine, I'll load up the other one. Don't worry about that. We'll fix that right sharpish. Don't worry about that. This is a bigger window anyway, so you know. Eat shit. Alright, here we go. Mortal Kombat 1 on the Game Gear. Now this one, it's putting like the Game Gear thing on the outside. Hopefully you won't have that. Hopefully you'll just be able to make it full screen, and we'll be good to go. Okay. So see if I put in the blood code. No, it's not working. It doesn't matter. Okay, let's go. Let's go. Let's go, son. Oh, hang on. Maybe I can do it now. There we go. Awesome. It was just waiting for me to do it. All right. Now, it is a small roster as well. Right? So we don't actually have the full cast. We have no Kano, and this is exactly like it was in the what do you call it, in the Master System version as well. So, and for some reason I have no sound. Oh, I know why I don't have any sound. I know why I don't have any sound with this one. There we go. So like I said, like the kick button really functions just as a multi-purpose, right? Depending on the direction you use. And let's see if I can do the freeze. There we go. You can do the slide too. I've got to remember how to do the slide as well. I honestly can't remember how to do a slide. It's actually a different button combination to what it normally is. So, here we go. Right, so that's the Game Gear version, right? So let's move over to the Super Nintendo version of Mortal Kombat 1. Okay. Where is that? That is... Here we go. Right. So this was obviously this was the heavily censored one. But still, Mortal Kombat's Mortal Kombat, eh? Right. Right, here we go. Here we go, Goro. Smack. Love it. Developed by Sculptured Software. Yeah, no wonder it kind of feels the way it does. Here we go, listen. See, it says the names, whereas in the Mega Drive version 1 it doesn't. A lot more arcade accurate when it comes to the music and stuff as well. Better visuals. But it's heavily censored. Heavily censored.
Scorpion wins.
Right. Oh. See, when you hit him, it's kind of like sweat comes off. So it's closer to the arcade than, say, the Mega Drive one, but by having the blood, it makes a massive, just a massive difference, like a huge difference, right? So now we're gonna load up the special one. We're gonna load up the Game Boy, right? We're gonna load that shit up because I tell you what, man. Tell you what, man. This is some trauma, right? I will be 100% running a tournament, right? Based on the on this, 100%, 100%. So who are we missing? We're missing, so with the two ninjas, Raiden, Kano, no Cage. There's no Cage. Fuck yeah. Evo tournament right here, boys. There's my kicks. There's my sweep. Roughly the same music as the Master System version. Let's see if I can do a harpoon. Bro, look at that fucking... Look at it, dude, this is terrible. How do I do my harpoon? can't even do my fucking harpoon bed. Can I do my teleport? Nah. Back. Nah. It won't do it. It won't do it, man. Right, this is woeful. That is fucking terrible. Alright. So let's move over to Mortal Kombat 2. Obviously, we've covered all the arcade versions, so now we're just doing the round trip. We're going over to MK2 for the Mega Drive. So we'll do that one first. So that way you guys can see what that one looks like, which is pretty good. Like I said, I really like this one. It's very very good version. Mortal Kombat 2. Here we go. Oh man, just like, you know when you play a game as a kid, you just remember even all the loading screens on the way to the game. Alright, here we go. Right, left down left, I fucked it up, hang on. Left down left, right down right, left right, there we go. So then you got all of these options here, including the soak test, which is pretty cool. Free to play, background, battle plan, on or off. All this shit, ooh, nasty, which from memory changes to a frugality instead of the toasty popping up. Right, and then we'll change to 6 button instead of 3 button, because don't forget, boys and girls, the Sega Mega Drive Genesis started off on on 3 button controllers, and eventually when we started getting fighting games, they increased it to 6 button controllers. Right. This is a big video. My apologies. I love this shit though, man. I fucking do. Fight. Doesn't even say round 1. Ow. Let me do my cool shit. Oh, you glitching bitch. There we go. Ugh.
Fight. Outstanding. Finish him.
Bloop. I still remember the sound effect. Bloop. So that's Mortal Kombat 2. That's the MK2 version, right? Now, as a direct comparison, let's load up the Super Nintendo version, right? So it's gonna be pretty night and day. It's gonna be pretty night and day, boys and girls, right? Where the fuck is it? Yeah, here we go. So yeah, but the gameplay was tight. The gameplay was arcade perfect in the Mega Drive version. Here we go. Even this part's like so much like different compared to the Mega Drive version. Here we go. See? So like more color, more sound, that sort of thing. Where did I put it on my list? Where did I put the SNES version? Yeah, I put it up there. Yeah, that's fine.
Round.
Let's see if the character jumps back. The AI. Nah. Is that a fact, is it? You'll also notice something too, that they put the character names. They put the character names under the health bar instead of in the health bar where they're supposed to be. Right? But obviously, better visuals, better sound. But it kind of feels like I'm kind of hitting like some putty. It kind of feels a little putty sounding. See if I can. Whoa, fucking glitched it. Glass jaw.
Scorpion wins.
But otherwise, very solid version. That's what I'm saying. Like, you kind of need both. To be perfectly honest, you kind of need both versions because they just excelled so well. Is he gonna beat me? It also feels a little harder to do the jump kick harpoon. I've noticed because it kind of feels a little weird. Kind of feels a little weird. But otherwise, extremely solid. Like, so the 16-bit versions of Mortal Kombat 2 were absolutely amazing. Now, just to finalize this MK2 round trip, we've actually got to load up the 32X version, so you can actually see what this one looks like, because this is the improved version of the Mega Drive version, but it still feels like the Mega Drive version. You know what I'm saying? Like, it still feels like it, sounds like it to a degree. Probe. Right. So you can still do, I think, is it the same? What is it? I can't remember what it is for the 32X version. I honestly can't. For the cheat, but it's got the cheat mode in there as well. Here we go. So naturally, you can immediately see the improvement with the character models, the select screen, stuff like that, which is really cool. By the way, for whatever reason, like, it is actually green flashing. Ignore the black, right? For whatever reason, it's just doing that. Mentions the name as well when you choose the character. But it's still the Mortal Kombat, like the MK2 soundtrack, the Mega Drive one. But you can see that the character sprites are bigger. Where's my, that's my block. All my buttons are fucked at the moment. There we go.
Come here! Scorpion
What?
wins.
What? You notice how it's got blacked out behind the grills, whereas the SNES version, you can actually see stuff. Also, MK2 introduced the actual low punch. There we go. So in MK1, if you press low punch or high punch when crouching, you still do the uppercut. In MK2, they actually introduced an actual low punch on low punch, and then high punch down, and pressing high punch would give you the uppercut. So that's the 32X version, which is definitely an improvement. But also feels like the Mega Drive version, but just upgraded. It still feels very, very Mega Drive-y, if you will. Now, moving on to MK3. So we only need to show the SNES version of this. This is one that this is the one I waited out the front of the shop for. And then we can move on to showing Ultimate MK3 as well on the SNES, because this is the only oh no, we're getting the Genesis version of MK3 as well. So I'll show the SNES version first, right? Because it is, to me anyway, the superior version. I don't remember the cheat codes, but it does actually have a bunch of cheat codes, which are pretty fucking good. So, Williams Entertainment. Yes. Yes, we know. That's the, don't tell anyone. Right. Here we go. So, I'll go Subby. Sub-Zero. Still mentions the name. Right? Choose your destiny.
Round
Sprites are kind of small.
fight.
Sprites are kind of small. Yeah, not gonna lie. Right. Oh, hang on. Well, fucking. Oh, hang on. There we go. Hang on. There we go. Always do the 5 hit instead of the 6 hit. You get a little bit extra damage.
Sub-Zero wins.
Now, let me just double check if there's a stage transition. I'm pretty sure there is.
Round 2. Fight.
So. Yep. But it doesn't do it like in the arcade. It kind of blurs out and then like sort of like teleports in. You know, the arcade one is definitely like it's all in one seamless transition. So I actually get my ass beat by Lou.
Wins.
But this is the best version of MK3 for the 16-bit that you can get.
Round 3.
So
Fight. Superb.
good music. Cool music. Oh shit, wrong button. I got my run button on the side. My run button, because the SNES controller doesn't have like you've only got the front bumpers on there, right? So I have to choose which one I want to have it on. So that's the Super NES version of Mortal Kombat 3. Let's quickly load up the Mega Drive version as a direct comparison, so you guys can see how that looks. Right. Where is it?
There's gotta be a better source of
There, did you go? There we go. Nice. All right. Smaller window. My apologies. I've already got my button set up for six button on this particular emulator. So, but yeah. And by the way, that's not glitching. That is actually an orange character select. So you can hear the sound is different. The graphics are obviously a lot less colorful, more grainy, pixelated. Charming in its own way, right? Does the same thing as the SNES, same transition. Look at the color of that ice clone, bro. It's like, it's so deep blue. It's not like that. Yeah, it couldn't even render like the full block of ice. It kind of does like the character, like as if they're stretched out. So there's the Genesis / Mega Drive version of Mortal Kombat 3, and that's the only two versions we're getting outside the arcade version. Now, jumping over, I will quickly actually show you Mortal Kombat Gold, so that way you can see how it's actually going to look, like how it's going to look absolutely beautiful. So if you can ignore the fact that it is gold, and obviously, you know, I think we're going to get gold anyway. Like, I don't think that's going to be an issue at all. But this will basically be how the game is going to look in MK4 in terms of like its graphical fidelity, right? Yes, I'd like to skip, please. Yes, I know. Eurocom development fun for everyone.
Software games. Electronic fun.
Yeah, I know. It's always been fun. Right. Yeah, baby. Here we go. Listen to that. Listen to that. So this is the gold menu. This is in the MK4 arcade version. If we get gold, this is what it will be like. And of course, we get the extra 5 characters at the top there.
Sub-Zero. Choose your destiny.
Alright, here we go. I'm gonna probably get my ass whooped.
Fight.
What's my block? Which side have I got my block on? I don't even have it. There we go. So you can see the graphics, see how they're all smoothed out, beautiful looking. That's how it will look. See how there's no problems in the with the actual like special effects for the special moves, right? That's how it's gonna look. So I just want to show you that, so that way at least you get a fairly good representation of the graphic fidelity for it. Let's see if I can do it the other day. Look at that, hop kick in the air. I can't remember the fatality, by the way, and I can't even check. That's one thing too I hope they add in there, is all the menus and shit. So yeah. So that's yeah, and keep your fingers crossed we get that. Right. So now we're moving on to this is the last ones actually. This is gonna be the Game Boy ones. The Game Boy Advance ones, right? We didn't do Game Boy. Sorry, my bad. We didn't do Game Boy Advance MK2. My bad. I completely forgot. So let's quickly throw that one out there. And then that way we can then move on immediately to what do you call it? To the Game Boy Advance ones. There are versions like MK3 and stuff that they haven't added in here. I don't know if that's something they'll add in later or anything like that. But yeah. So we're missing some characters as well. Who are we missing? There's no Kung Lao. We're missing 4 characters. So we're missing Kung Lao, Baraka. Oh, okay. All right. That's right, I forgot we've got 2 buttons. Oh, now I can do it. Thank you. I actually get a proper jump kick. Crossover kick. Definitely runs a lot better. What did I put the Game Boy version MK2 at? Yeah, I'm gonna pull that up here. Yeah, no, that's a hell of an improvement over the first one. A hell of an improvement. Whatever they did was massive. This feels so much better to play. How do I block? Am I gonna do anything? No. Okay. All right. So that's the Game Boy Game Boy version of Mortal Kombat 2. Now let's move on to Mortal Kombat Advance. So let's check this out. Again, I didn't have a lot to do with these, but I believe this is the ultimate version. So getting the ultimate MK3 at home, essentially, I think. So let's have a look-see and see how we go. Look at that. Look at the options we got. 1-on-1, 2-player, 2-on-2, 2-player. That's cool. Yep. So that's, you know what, that's actually kind of impressive. I think I might bump this up to D. Sorry, to C. If I haven't already. Mystery. Oh, it's a mystery. Oh, it's a mystery. Look at that. Who's the mystery? Right, anyway. Scorpion. Even says the name. That's pretty impressive. Yeah, I'm gonna bump this shit up. Yeah, yeah. Did I? No, I already did. Yeah, it's in C tier. Actually, you know what? I might even bump it up. Maybe. No, we'll see how we go. We'll see how we're going, okay. We'll see how we go first. Let's just calm down, right? You never know how this shit's gonna go.
Fight!
Get over here!
Where's my block? Do I have a block? Look at this spurg out.
Scorpion wings.
What the fuck? Alright, yeah, you're staying your ass down in fucking D. Wherever I put you. How do I, oh, that's how I do my uppercut. Alright. How the fuck do I block? Can I not? Why has it got the female sound? Why has it got the female sound for jumping?
Finish him. Scorpion wins.
I don't know what fucking difficulty that on, but that's wild. Right, so that's Game Boy Advance, right? So it's got the roster. Like, yeah, if you fiddle with the obviously the difficulty to be fine. But yeah, that's kind of wild, bro. I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of wild. So now we've got Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance on the Game Boy Advance. All right, so this is where people are going, oh my god, we're gonna get 3D era. No, we're not. I'd almost guarantee we're not, right? Because when you see the graphics, you'll see what I'm talking about. Now that's glitching, so ignore the glitches, right? It's just because of the emulator. So there's, what's that, 5 unlockable characters that we can get in there, which is pretty groovy. Oh, hang on, sorry, wrong button, my bad.
Scorpion.
So this is essentially our, like, the Deadly Alliance, well, it is. Like, yeah, I don't know why I was going to say that. Anyway. Now, I think you can you swap, there you go, you can swap between 2 styles, 2 unarmed styles. There's no weapon style in here. You can move in 3D as well. But this is, like, this is why you wouldn't put it in the, this is why you wouldn't put it in the actual, like, 3D collection or the Dada collection. Because it's so old and dinky. And it's better being on the Legacy system. Right? Think of Legacy not just in where the games are, but the hardware that they're on as well. So now we're going to move on to the very last game of the video, which is Mortal Kombat Tournament Edition. Right? Where is it? Here we go. Now, I'm curious about this one. Which one was this based on? Was this still based on Armageddon or was this based on Deception? Let's have a look-see. We'll know when we see the roster. Well, that's fucking cool, though. You gotta admit, that's fucking cool. Right? Don't need a profile. Arcade. So yeah, it's almost like a... Like, there's 5 unlockable characters as well. Right? And if anyone has played these ones, can you please leave comments below about that? I should get a game save and just have everything available. It feels like we've got 2 versions of Deadly Alliance. Does that make sense? There's his flames. Has he got his flip kick? Nah. Oh! So we can swap between 2 unarmed modes, but I was able to do an actual sword attack. There we go. Can I knock him out? Get the fuck out. You know how much fun this is going to be to run tournaments on? Holy shit, bro. Like, it's so fucking stupid. Turn around, you stupid bitch. Right? What the fuck are you doing?
Scorpion wins.
Yeah, that's why your ass is on the D block, right? Anyway, guys, I'll leave it there. Shout out to Mike Hollow for the idea for this video. I know it was a long video, but I really wanted to not only give my explanations as to why I chose these, and I was pretty much right, except for MK2 for the Game Boy. I decided to bump that up into C, just simply because the gameplay was a lot smoother than the MK1 version of it on the same system. But I also wanted to showcase the gameplay so that way you guys could see what these games are also going to look at in a bigger, chunk of gameplay, rather than the sort of the little slices that I did in the previous video. So anyway, guys, let me know what you think of the tier list. What would you change? Where would you put things? Remember, the S tier is all arcade versions and everything from down there. Everything combination of nostalgia and also breaking down the games compared to their other counterparts as well. So let me know what you guys think. Catch you next time. See ya.